In this week's episode of Halton Footy Corner, Brad Smith tells us about the time Alessandro Nesta convinced him to drop everything and drive to Miami. And we focus in on local Canadian Championship competitors, the Oakville Blue Devils. We ask their top striker and local lad Mathew Santos 4 rapid-fire questions, but first we catch up with their gaffer, Duncan Wilde, to get the lowdown on his 2018 campaign.
I'll play the game again. Just tell me that I'll never lose, never lose. I'll play the game again. I'll never lose, never lose.
Hello friends, and welcome to the first ever episode of Halton Footy Corner. My name's Pierce Lang and I'm going to be hosting this show, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in news and interviews from across the region. We're going to be talking Oakville, Burlington, Milton, Halton Hills, everything in between and beyond. So that means the Canadian National Men's Team, the Canadian National Women's Team, USL, League One, Grassroots. Anything you want to talk about, we're going to talk about it. And if we haven't, let us know and we'll talk about it next time. First and foremost, I got to give a big shout out to the King's Arms in downtown Oakville. They've looked after my boys, the Oakville Villains, for years. We come in after games, have some King's wings, have a couple pops. Christmas time comes around and we always book their upstairs private lounge for our Christmas party. They're letting us shoot up here right now and for this entire season, bringing you Halton Footy Corner in their gorgeous Lion's Den. But enough of that, you'll see more of it throughout the show. We want to get to the real meat and potatoes of what this show is about, and that's interviews and news. First off, Duncan Wilde, head coach of the Oakville Blue Devils, sat down with me to talk about what the Blue Devils have coming up this season and what his expectations are going into the Canadian Championship.
I'll play the game again. Just tell me that I'll never lose, never lose.
So Duncan, thank you for joining us today. You guys have quite a season ahead of you this year. Tell me a little bit about what it was that brought you into the Canadian Championship for this season.
Well, we qualified for this year's championship by winning League One Ontario last season in 2017. It's the first time that the CSA has awarded that level. So ourselves and the champions of the Quebec League will face up in the first round, and the winners will proceed to play the Pro Clubs. So an exciting time for us.
Phenomenal. Now, with that happening, there's a lot of changes that have to take place within your own programming. What's sort of been the word on the street about what you guys are going to have to do?
The games are all Wednesday nights, so that adds to our schedules, particularly in June. So we know we play away in Laval, Quebec on June 6th, and we play at home on Wednesday, June 13th, and we'll play at the Ontario Soccer Centre. So we know those dates for sure. The winner of that round will proceed to play Ottawa Fury, and they'll get a home game on the 20th and an away game on the 27th. So if we're successful, it means we're playing every Wednesday in June as well as our regular league schedule. However, League One have been fantastic in allowing us to reschedule some time and make time for this, so we're really thankful for that.
Now, you've made some additions to your squad in the off-season. What sort of areas were you looking to bolster within the team that you had last year?
Just looking for a few things that we didn't already have. We're working with 4 or 5 potential players now. We've just signed a boy called Sako, who's from Japan. Different style player altogether than what we have, and we're just trying to mix up, and our options, and so we can play in some different ways, which I think will be very important for us this year. But the core of the group will be back, and it'll be complemented with 1 or 2 youth players coming through as always. Pre-season will be intense and it'll be interesting. It's actually already underway. We've started way earlier this season, so we're just trying to do all the best things we can to prepare, give ourselves every chance to success.
What are a few of those things that you've been doing differently this year to try and prepare yourselves?
We normally bring the group in towards the end of March, maybe early April, but we started the first week in January. We're training every Saturday afternoon, and we're training Wednesday nights. The boys are all on their own added fitness regimes as well. We've already trained outside, it's like late February, So we've been outside when we could take advantage of the weather, and we're just trying to pack in as much organisation and preparation things as possible.
What's the mood been like around the squad? Has there been a lot of excitement about what's going to be happening this year with the championship, or is it just business as usual?
It's been exciting since Braden Culver scored the penalty. You know, everybody's been excited since then, and obviously the news of going to national championships, you know, was a thrill for everybody. But the fact that we just announced a pre-season tour is even more exciting for them. So we've got a lot of things to do between now and the end of April when the season kicks off, and we're right in the middle of it. So it's all good.
Now you're going on this pre-season tour. Where's it going to take you?
We're going to the island of Bermuda over 5 days. We've got a good network of people down there. Bermuda Tourism and the Football Federation are in good support. So the players will play 2 games. They'll play the national team in the national stadium, and we'll play the island champions at their home field. And while we're there, our players are going to participate in a kids soccer camp, also a 3v3 tournament, and some local media things as well. So we're trying to build a strong relationship, and if it goes well, we'd like to add that as a regular feature of our program and make it an annual event.
Now there's a lot of talk about the Canadian Premier League starting up this following season. A lot of excitement around it. For you as a smaller club, are there any concerns that you have as far as how that's going to affect your team and how that's going to affect League One moving forward?
Yeah, losing my team. I would like to think that ourselves and the top 4 or 5 clubs in the league, and there's nothing between us, we're all very, very close. I think everyone is going to be moving players, and numerous players, to this opportunity. And we, as you know, have got some very exciting young players, which I think are looking for that opportunity. We've also got 1 or 2 more senior players that are established and married and businesses, and so I don't see the CPL being an attraction for them. It's a big ask, but certainly for the players 18 through 25, I think they're very excited. And the way League One is set up this year, with 8 teams going to a different playoff format, the last month of the season is going to pitch all the top clubs against each other, and that's just going to be a fantastic showcase for the CPL clubs to come and scout players.
All right, well, Duncan, thank you very much for joining us,
Thanks
and
for
best of
having
luck on your season in the Canadian Championship, and I'm sure we'll have you out at some point later on as the year goes by.
Thanks very much.
I'll play the game again. Just tell me that I'll never lose, never lose.
Welcome back. Exciting times ahead for Duncan and his Oakville Blue Devils, especially when you consider how young some of these talented players are that he's working into his system. Now, one of those players that we're talking about right now is last year's leading scorer, Mathew Santos. We caught up with him training with the League One All-Stars, and we asked him 4 rapid-fire questions.
Well, when I was 16, I played with Oakville Red Devils. We went to Disney. We actually came second that year. But in Disney, we won the Disney Championships. After that, I went to Burlington Under-21, played there for 2 years. Ended up winning the league both years. And then after that, I went to Oakville Blue Devils, played for Duncan. I got leading goal scorer, and we actually won the Under-21s. And then Duncan called me up to the League One. Just had a successful year last year. It was definitely challenging at first. It took me a while to get in the swing of things, but once I got comfortable with the team, things just went smoothly, and I scored a couple goals. But hopefully this year I want to improve on how I did and help the team win again. I mean, we didn't have the season we wanted, but just how we became friends, all of us, it was an awesome time. So, I mean, it didn't work out, but I wish them the best in the years to come. But just Canada getting bigger and bigger over the years, and having that opportunity to have the Canadian Premier League is an awesome experience, and hopefully people see how I play as a player and like me, and then hopefully they want me.
I'll play the game again. Just tell me that I'll never lose, never lose.
Oh, hey there, welcome back. Just having a quick bite to eat, a little quick curry up in the Lion's Den at the King's Arms before we get back into the action. If you're hungry for more soccer, we've got a real tasty interview coming up with Bradley Smith. Brad is a young man who grew up here in Oakville who has pursued his dreams of finding a career in the beautiful game. When his playing days were over, he went out and he went and took a college course on sports management and found his way into the locker rooms of the Canadian national team, Montreal Impact, and now Miami FC.
I'll play the game again. Just tell me that I'll never lose, never lose. I'll play the game again. I'll never lose.
I went to Durham College in Oshawa. I took a sports management program. It's traditionally for, people getting to the marketing side of things, administrative side, not recreational, like community sports, somebody who's gonna, work at a gym, or somebody who's gonna work for the town, or more like it's very administrative. So the job that I got isn't necessarily one that a typical job that would filter out of taking a college program. I kind of got lucky there because a lot of times when you go to take a sports management program, you end up working like an office job or, marketing or something like that. So I got lucky and I got to end up working with the coaches and the players and that. So in Montreal, it was the winter of 2011. So Montreal was a NASL team and they were going into MLS in 2012. So every time a team jumps up to the MLS, you start staffing. You triple, you quadruple your staff, right? So, an ASL team, you got like a team manager, an equipment manager, and, like a GM and a technical director. And maybe you got an office of 5 to 10 guys. But when you go MLS, you got like a 50-person office. You got 20, 30 people that are working full-time. You got scouts, you got people working here and there. So they're basically looking for people just to multiply their staff a little bit. So I ended up, I was working with the technical director and the team manager. We're kind of preparing for the player settlement projects because all the players are going to be coming in from the States, from other countries. So we're out looking for housing and stuff. I made a little, like a player welcome book for the players settling into Montreal, showing them the restaurants and the cafes. So just because I was kind of young and savvy on the computer, they had me doing all the, all the paper pushing, getting all the documents ready for the players and that. So it was a cool experience. But I kind of went into the internship knowing that there was a job coming after it. A lot of times you go into an internship, they say, but there's not a guarantee of a job. It's just, somebody to get their hours, something for somebody to get their hours or whatnot. But I kind of knew mine was leading to a job. It's just a matter of where in the team I'll get the job. But I started working a lot with the coaches and the technical staff when I was in the office, doing little favors for them. So then they kind of pulled me over to their side. And then when the job offer came, it was working with the technical staff, which was cool. Jesse Marsch was our coach in the first year. It was his first year coaching in 2012. American guy, good guy. So yeah, we traveled a lot that first year. I learned a lot. We had like 3 preseason camps. So just getting there, just the first few months of being there, I did so much. I felt like it was a year's worth of work just in the first few months. And then since then, in Montreal, it was good. We had a few coaches. Alessandro was there, of course. Alessandro Nesta, Marco De Baio. We got some Canadian legends, Patrice Bernier. It was a good time in Montreal. Montreal was new to me because I wasn't French, right? Obviously, I'm an English-speaking Canadian. My French isn't the best, but I learned a little bit. So there was that bit of adaptation period. I always found it was ironic being an English-speaking guy who moves to Montreal, and my job was to help the players be comfortable in Montreal when I just moved there myself a few months ago. So I kind of had to, that's the definition of jumping in the deep end, right? So that was fun, but it was a huge learning experience because it was challenging. It was really challenging for me. It was 2015, just after Christmas. So I worked with Alessandro in Montreal when he was a player in 2012 and 2013. And at that point, he was starting taking his coaching licenses, or he already started before, I think, a few years before. And he always told me that once he's coaching and he's coaching a team, he'll give me a call to be the equipment manager. So a few years passed since Montreal, so, I didn't forget about him, but I forgot about the opportunity. And then on Boxing Day in 2015, I was working with the national team that year. So, I was off and on work, not working every day at a club, like a club atmosphere, right? And then, he just gave me a ring. He's like, hey, I'm starting things up in Miami. Can you move down here next week? I was like, who is this again? He's like, it's Alessandro. Remember I told you I was going to call you? So he didn't forget. And yeah, a week later, I packed my bags, moved to Miami. Been there for the last 2 years. I wouldn't necessarily say it was strange, but we had a player in Montreal, is Felipe. He would always have we call it the técnico, which is technical in Portuguese. He's a Brazilian player. So we'd always do a routine where he'd do 10 touches with his feet, left, 5 right. He'd do 10 half volleys. He'd do 10 volleys. He'd do 10 knee to volleys, 10 chests, 10 headers. And then he'd go back down to chest, and then he'd finish with the feet. So we called it the technical pyramid, and it would take about 5 to 10 minutes. And I remember one day, the training before one of the games, I wasn't on the field. I was inside doing something, and he didn't want to leave the field without doing the technical. So I had to kind of get dressed and go out just for 5 minutes, just for him just to do the thing, because it was such a superstition for him. So I guess that was kind of a strange thing. Yeah, it was just interesting to see how important this superstition was for him. He needed me out there. He was upset that I wasn't out there, and it just kind of hit me at that point of the year. Okay, these guys are serious about their superstitions. So from that day forward, I was always very sensitive to what individual guys want.
Thanks for tuning in, guys, to this first ever episode of Halton Footy Corner. Next week, we're going to head over to Burlington and talk to Burlington Youth Soccer Club Technical Director Kevin McGreskin about how they're using technology to develop the next crop of talented young players. Now, you may be sitting here wondering, why is Pierce wearing this absolutely gorgeous team track jacket? No, it's not to promote probably the best 4th Division men's league team in the entire world, the Oakville Villains. It's actually because we're going to be running a contest. Now, if you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, we've even got our YouTube channel that you can subscribe to now. Send us a picture of your team jacket, and we're going to send you this beautiful Team Canada anthem jacket that Melanie Booth from Burlington gave me off her very own back at the Canadian national team announcement for the women's game against Germany coming up later this summer. So if you send us a picture, and we're gonna pick whoever's got the most primo, beautiful jacket, most beautiful jersey, and we'll send you this. Now keep in mind it is a small, so if you wanna win this for one of your kids or for one of your friends, you're more than welcome to enter, but this one's a small, and best of luck to you, and tune in next week for the Burlington Youth Soccer Club on Halton Footy Corner.